Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. So this week what we're doing is that we completely took down one of our big lizard's cages. I'm going to do a complete tank overhaul and rebuild. This is kind of just going to be a tutorial episode, kind of showing you whether you're new to the hobby or not, how to build kind of your reptile cages, all the equipment and all the products that we use. So we already started. It's a 41-gallon tank that we're using. We cleaned it out with a little bit of bleach and water, kind of scrubbed it, get it nice and clean. Next we're about to add in the soil. So what we use for most of our kind of lizards and whatnot is what's a product known as Eco Earth. And what they do is that they come in bricks like this. It's kind of hard, and what you do is that you add them in hot water and then they expand and they make a nice kind of dirt, such as this. It's a really cool substance. It's eco-friendly. It's made out of shredded coconut husk and fibers, which is really, really good for the environment. And it kind of acts as a natural product, a natural kind of substrate. So we're going to start by putting this in the tank. A trick that I always use with this kind of stuff is I put it in really, really boiling hot water, and it really makes it just kind of fall apart and ready to use. But you don't want to put your lizard in right away, or any reptile in after you use it. So what I usually do is then add a cold cup of water, and it just kind of mellows it out for a nice even temperature. I put 2 bricks in. It's a pretty big tank, and what I'm going to be doing is making a kind of like a mountain, and underneath it I'm going to be using this large hide. So it'll be kind of like a large mountain on top. You'll be able to go underneath it. It's going to look pretty awesome. Alright, so as you can see, we added in the cocoa fiber. We put it on one side of the enclosure, and what we're going to do is add a different substrate of cypress wood chips. Kind of give it a two-toned one side versus the other. This is a really good digging material. So, and what he is a Sudan giant plated lizard. They like to bury themselves and dig up, and this will be more of a stable area with his water bowl and his food bowl for that. So let me put that in next. And this kind of goes for pretty much any kind of lizard. This word also works for pretty much any of your big skinks. I think for if you wanted to do more of a kind of blue tongue skink, I'd pretty much use either all cocoa fiber or more like an aspen shaving chips. They seem to do well on that. This would also probably work out okay for something like your water dragons. But it's kind of the setup that we're doing is a very specific one for my animal, but you can pretty much generalize it to whatever you want to do. So yeah. Alright. So we got that in there. I'm actually using recycled snake bedding that's been cleaned and thoroughly dried. That's because it's wasn't really dirty to begin with. It just during changes we had a bunch left over. Instead of wasting it, just clean it out a bit, make sure it's okay. Treat with a little bit of bleach, not too much, and perfectly usable and recyclable. Nothing is going to really pass from one animal to the other, so nothing to really worry about there. I'm going to mix this in a little bit, with a little bit of cohesion. Nice. I've worked with a lot of different bedding materials. A lot of people like to use newspaper and or paper towels, and that's perfectly fine to use. I prefer to give my animals as natural enclosure as possible. Yes, paper towel is much easier to clean up. It's much easier to do, but I don't really have a problem with simple cleanup, going in, spot cleaning, picking up a little piece of poop every week. It's not really that big of a deal. But for some people it is, and paper towel is fine. The only thing that I always say is just make sure that you do keep up with cleaning, because that can always be a problem if poop starts piling on. Alright, so now I'm going to start working my way, start creating kind of like a hill. Sudan plated lizards, they're not super common. They make great pets. It's sort of like a bearded dragon 2.0. I don't know why they're not as popular as they should be. They're probably not as common, and most people, when you walk into a pet store, you see bearded dragon. Oh, everyone talks about that. That must be easy. And then you see a inflated lizard. You're like, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to try it. Or you have people who just say, you know, the hell with it, I'm going to try it, and that generally can be disastrous. But that's all right. Okay. Let's work with that. Next, I'm going to use these nice big river rocks. I'm going to create a nice ledge going out and over, because what you want to do is that lizards are always, well, any reptile really, needs a nice hot basking spot. The closer they can get to the heat lamp, the happier they're going to be. So you want to try to make it so that your reptile has a cool area to hide out, but also has a nice hot basking spot as close to that heat lamp as possible, especially if you have something that likes to climb. Something like a leopard gecko probably wouldn't care too much about how high its basking spot is, but these guys want to go as high and as close to that heat source as possible. So I'm going to build an outgoing ledge. One thing I always say when you're using this stuff, it's always a good idea to try to glue them down if you can, because you never want the rocks to shift, especially if something's going to be climbing on them, and potentially fall and could severely injure or kill your reptile. So you always want to be careful with that. I'm not particularly gluing them down, but what I'm doing is I'm going to be really burying them down deep, making sure the substrate surrounds it, and organizing it in such a way that it will be nearly impossible for him to actually move them. And you know, have fun with it. You can create all different kind of creations with it. You can do all different kinds of neat little designs. Get it, you know. I think it kind of is an act between functionality, what works for you, and what looks aesthetically pleasing and great for the animal. Typically, when you have smaller reptiles, you don't want to over stimulate them. You know, if you kind of throw in a whole forest in a small 10-gallon tank, your animal could potentially get really overwhelmed and stressed out. But you also don't want to, or at least for me, I prefer to see the animal in a semi-natural surrounding. If you just have it on paper towels with one little hide, I think that's a little bit underwhelming for the animal. And then again, sometimes they just don't care. I know that for the snakes, they don't really care what's in their enclosure as long as they've got nice warm spot and substrate. They are a-okay. But typically find that my reptiles the lizards especially do best when they've got their own little place to explore. Right now I'm at his nice big water bowl. He does like to go for a nice soak every now and then. Your water bowl, you're going to want to think about, depending on what type of lizard. Bearded dragons, you're not going to need anything like this. You're lucky if you even really see your bearded dragon drink much. They get a lot of their water from their vegetation that you're going to want to feed them. But you'll have stuff like your water dragons and basilisk and stuff like that will probably really like a large tub like this, or you might want to even think about doing like a Tupperware, especially if you have something like a tegu or a caiman lizard. But this is fine for this guy. Basically, you want something. If it is a species that is known to like the water, you're going to want to give it something that it can probably fit in. The general kind of rule of thumb. Dude, your place is going to look awesome after this. You are going to love this. A good thing too to remember is try to give it multiple hides. Reptiles, they generally are reclusive animals by nature. They don't generally love people. So the more that they can hide away, the better. Is generally the rule. And you want to make sure your animal is nice. I'm actually using for this one a mixture of both live and fake plants. It's really all about your own personal preference. I like using fake plants because they're cheap and they last forever, they stay green. I'm also using live plants because, sorry, just getting a little antsy being over there. Excuse everyone, say hey. But live plants can go either way. You don't want, if it's a foraging animal, especially something like a bearded dragon or an iguana, you don't want to put something that's toxic into the enclosure just on the chance that they may take a nip out of it. And there's also the whole, can you keep the plant alive? You don't want something super tropical and put it in a Euromastix cage that's just going to be sun all the time and sandy, and then you got to be giving this plant copious amounts of water, and you're going to end up pissing off your lizard. So reptile first, plant second. Alright, next we're going to do final touch-up and we'll see how it looks.